Thank you, Council President. Year 2027, recreation quality of star 9. Raise your hand.
Introduce yourselves for the record and let us.
For the Parks and Recreation Department, with me today is Salome Martinez, Program Equity Manager, as well as Andy Field, Department Director. Today we have returned to present updates to the proposed fiscal year plans for the presentation.
All right, are you ready?
On June 16th, the department presented the proposed fiscal year 2027 Recreation Center Fund and Opportunity Fund budgets to Council, resulting in concerns raised over how Opportunity Fund was being allocated and unspent Recreation Center Fund balances. With that, the Council returned this item to staff, requesting that the Opportunity Fund allocation for Council District 8 Recreation Centers be increased, the allocation for Opportunity Fund be reevaluated using the assumption that fiscal year 26 budgets were fully expended, to develop a plan for the expenditure improvements to the Recreation Center Fund budget and Opportunity Fund allocation process in the future. The next few recreation centers are supported through a with the general fund, recreation center funds that capture revenues generated through recreation center operations and reinvest those funds back into recreation services. Allocated to recreation centers and underserved communities for local priorities, programs, equipment, and minor maintenance projects. We also have actively and improved facilities. Finally, donations from community members, organizations, and partners help support programs and projects beyond what traditional funding sources may provide. Taking a closer look at recreation center funds, there are several revenue sources. Classes, camps, sports leagues, and other recreational activities are a primary source of revenue for the Recreation Center Fund. Revenue is also generated through permits for use of recreation buildings, athletic fields, and projects identified at the local level. Donations made specifically to a recreation center can also. After running the analysis recommended in item 2, the results remain similar than the original allocation disbursement, resulting in even less sites in Council District 8 receiving an allocation. With that, the department makes the following recommendation to move the budgets forward for FY27 expenditure. Maintain the previously proposed Opportunity Fund allocations of $555,000 to the 14 recreation centers originally identified in the staff report and in Attachment B. In addition, utilize $100,000 of future Opportunity Fund revenue. This would provide each site an additional $12,500 for their fiscal year 27 Recreation Center Fund budget. This would be a one-time allocation of future revenues. Future allocations will follow policy methodology at the time, as it exists at the time of that year's allocation. As previously mentioned, Recreation Center Fund budgets have been fully expended. The analysis found similar results to the original scores, with Council District 8 allocations changing from 2 eligible sites to 1. To ensure the program effectively advances equity objectives, which the department is committed to evaluate, community recreation groups continue to provide recommendations for Recreation Center Fund expenditures and often include a reserve of funds over multiple years to support larger projects. In addition, recreation centers require sufficient fund balances at the start of the fiscal year to continue operating busy summer month programming and events. Also, being that annual revenues and expenditures can fluctuate throughout the year, having fund balances provides a safe, as well as recreation program contracts. While we have experienced delays in getting contracts in place in a timely manner, to support these activities, the department continues to work closely with future community priorities, programs, and investments. A couple of examples include the Padres Foundation donating $40,000 to Montgomery Waller to cover field renovations that were previously budgeted for Recreation Center Fund expenditure, as well as the ongoing collaboration with San Diego Parks Foundation, the county, Price support the Parks After Dark program. Moving on to the last recommendation of possible Recreation Center Fund and Opportunity Fund reforms. Work with the IDA policy and allocation process for improvements, and to participate in the allocation process committee to achieve a more equitable distribution of funding. We will meet with the Department of Finance to evaluate if the funds and both funds can be folded into the annual budget development and monitoring process. We will improve our communication efforts with the council on the process for developing budgets for Recreation Center funds and the Opportunity Fund. And lastly, we will boost our efforts to work closely with operational staff and the council to ensure unspent fund balances are prioritized and spent on community priorities. The department updated attachments A, the Recreation Center Fund budget proposals, as well as attachment B, the Opportunity Fund allocations, to reflect the increased Opportunity Fund allocations as increased budgets for Council District 8. With that, the only changes to the proposed actions include the addition of Action 4, which authorizes the appropriation and expenditure of future revenue, which was intended for fiscal year 28 allocations as part of the fiscal year 27 budget, and expenditures specifically across all 8 Recreation Center funds in Council District 8. The department recommends approval of all actions as proposed to ensure the Recreation Center presentation.
The presentation, clerk, please go,
Equity implications for this item, including the Opportunity Fund budget, were mentioned by Parks and Rec, but one I want to highlight is the Opportunity Fund Evaluation Committee and our team looking at the process in ways that we can make sure that it's more equitable. And we plan to work with staff to look at those improvements in the 2020 that the money that's being set aside and retained in the fund balance for the improvements or other areas is that it's clear what those items are being used for and why it's set aside. Other opportunities includes looking at the actual Opportunity Fund scoring matrix to explore ways in which the matrix can be changed, and we can examine and critique those factors. Factors of the Opportunity Fund include if the location is so our team is committed to looking at those factors in partnership with Parks and Rec. Last but not least, in this particular category, we recommend that the department determine to evaluate the allocation of the Opportunity Fund, which is also targeted. Parks and Rec has invited our team to sit that part as looking at who should be on the committee, and we accept the invite from Parks and Rec. Two other considerations, and I'll say these really quickly, is that we know that not all rec centers are created equally. So council may want to consider how facility limitations, including size and operation hours for stakeholders. So we recommend that Parks and Rec could identify a process to provide stakeholders with access to information if that service is not provided at their location. So essentially, if it's not provided there, where else can it go? Last but not least, regarding the subsidized contracts, council may want to consider and monitor the increase in programs and activities in CP2 as it pertains to working with those providers to offer more activities and services. This includes the number of clear, tangible programs and activities. Baku from our team is online to address any questions as well as
and I'm just here requesting that these funds remain in the hands of Parks and Rec groups and to really need these funds.
Thank you for those comments. Allegedly, Audra?
You guys thought I wasn't going to show up today. I thought, would have been good. Anywho, yes, so my concern is what's happening at these rec centers and the parks and the safety of the children and really anybody that participates in engaging in those activities And as you're talking about Parks After Dark program, like that's a little scary. We don't have lights at parks. Raul, people have been dying in your parks, being murdered at, Linda Vista Skate Park or being brutally assaulted by officers. I mean, you don't really care because it doesn't really affect you. But it's very detrimental what's happening at these places, and these funds should be spent for safety and things like that to make sure there's lighting because people are getting raped. These are like perfect places when you're a rapist or something like that, if they're dark and there's secluded areas to go and take advantage of somebody. And it's like, we can sit here and virtue signal like what we're really doing is bringing forward something in the community, which you are. But if you're not ensuring that it's a safe place to go to, then it's like, where's our money really being spent? I mean, you could sit there and have swings. How does that help? So I just feel like you guys need to be more, concerned about people's public safety. And, the fact that, you could just be going and enjoying the park and, an officer from the San Diego Police Department can just come up and basically slam your face into the ground, and brutally assault you, and then you get charged with something. So it's just interesting the things that take place that isn't really of concern to people who, those are your constituents, like Raul Campillo, but, that's just the way the business goes. Good job. Gonzalez. Waldron. Apologies, I can't read the person. Sage. Thank you. You'll have 2 minutes, please proceed.
Hi, my name is Sage Gonzalez Walding. I am the chair. I'm speaking to this in favor because obviously we all need more money for Parks and Rec. One of the issues that our community has is that finding what the metric is for each district for parks has been difficult to figure out. So I have brought you each something to look at. This is called the Trust for Public Land. This is a nationwide organization that really just does a metric. And in San Diego, we rate pretty low for equity. The other piece is next week we're speaking over radio towers, and this is a 31-acre park. This is not on the agenda, but I really, all the things that are happening with the presentations, this is going to be a really big deal for our community. So I would like you all to look at this. Public safety is imperative in our community. And if you consider public safety being clean air, places to play, things for children to do and ways to invest in our children in our community, this is for our community really important. I find it interesting. My council member is in here today, and this is what we're talking about. So, thank you.
Thank you. We'll pick this. Paul, are you speaking to this item? Paul Kruger, are you speaking to this item? Okay, just wanted to make sure before I went to virtual public comment. I've started the 5-minute timer. Everyone who's participating virtually, we have 6 speakers in this queue. 9885, if you can please unmute. 9885, I can't unmute for you. There you go.
Hi, here I am. My name is Joanne Souquette. I am the Secretary and Safety Officer for Lucky Waller Little League that is located at Montgomery Waller Park. I have to just say that we're really sad to hear that District 8 is being passed up again this year for the second time. It's really important for us not to leave money. Montgomery Waller has so many things that it needs fixed. We have a playground that is not parking lots that have no lights in them where people's cars get broken into. We had St. Padres come out last year, and yes, they donated $40,000 to have our fields flattened and leveled so that our kids could play on these fields, and this was the first time since 1969 that these fields were fixed. And we cannot depend on the charity organizations to come and step in to take care of what's being neglected. And on top of that, yes, they came in and they fixed those fields for us, but then Park and Rec allowed football and soccer to play on those fields. And so we had to spend thousands of dollars this year to fix them again so that they could be playable for our players this spring. And the season's almost over, and we're going to have to hand it back over to football and soccer again, and it's just going to happen again. The community has been stepping up to make sure that our parks look good, but it's not enough, and our kids deserve better, and we deserve the funding. And the funding that's left over, the $300,000, is not even enough to start working to bring Montgomery Waller into compliance. The playgrounds need to be fixed, the lights need to be fixed. We don't have a scoreboard for our kids. We don't have a dog park. It's not safe. Our bathrooms are not great. It's not okay that every year we get passed up, and our families deserve better. This is something that I've lived in the community since I was born there. And this is something that we've been fighting for every year that I can remember. My parents fought for lights in the parking lot. I'm almost 40 years old and we still don't have them. We cannot leave money on the table anymore, and we need to look at these parks and these organizations and these places that kids can go and have fun in a safe manner, and give them the opportunity to improve and to grow.
Your time has concluded. Becky Rapp is the next speaker. If you can please unmute.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Becky Rapp, and it's unfortunate that we are to the point that we have to utilize opportunity funds to help fund parks and rec centers. Our communities are being asked to do more with limited resources, while families continue to rely on these types of recreation programs, especially now. I do appreciate the city's commitment to expanding the recreational opportunities, but we also need to look at opportunities to generate additional revenue without asking taxpayers to pay more. One opportunity is stronger enforcement of laws that already exist. Across San Diego, illegal flavored tobacco products, intoxicating hemp products, and other prohibited items continue to be sold openly, often in storefront windows near neighborhoods and recreation centers. These illegal sales undermine public health, increase youth exposure, and create unnecessary burdens on our communities. Stronger enforcement would not only protect children and families, it could also generate substantial revenue through penalties. Those funds could be reinvested directly into our recreation system. Imagine what that could mean. Recreation centers could expand after school and summer programs. Parks that currently lack adequate lighting could finally be lit up, making them safer and more accessible during the evening hours. Facilities could receive long overdue maintenance, and neighborhoods with the greatest needs could benefit from additional recreational activities without relying solely on limited general fund dollars. I just encourage the city to make stronger enforcement of existing laws part of its long-term funding strategy for Parks and Rec. Let's put it back into the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Blair Beekman. If you can please unmute.
Hi, thank you, Blair Beekman. I think this is about the third time this item has been here at Council and Committee in the past month and a half. Thank you. It's interesting for items to come back. I thought additional funding, it was described today that additional funding is going to be going to District 8. So good luck how that can go to the park that was described as needing help. As this is the third time, ideas can be very much a part of this process in how we talk about the future of our tech accountability for the future of these rec centers and park systems in San Diego. It sounds like there's going to be a lot of new asks of surveillance tech coming up. And I think we should be well prepared that we not only ask for good surveillance tech, but that we ask for good policies with the tech. I think we have to start moving past the euphemisms of sports utility lighting and learn to speak directly to the concept of biometric technology as an example, and that we're not afraid to have that subject be a regular talking point in our community dialogue. We don't know how to do that yet, but yet biometric tech was all around us during the era of COVID and our post-COVID era. And yet we don't know how to practice having that conversation openly yet. It's really important to say that instead of sports utility lighting, and I hope we make the efforts to do that. And for all the clamor to create new tech, that has to be equally balanced with the concepts of good policy practices. And that's all I ask for, in this sort of instance. How we can limit our tech is important, and it can serve the same purposes. But having the good policies in place just adds that we're doing things well. We're doing it responsibly and holistically. I mean, that's how you build a park community future. And I hope you take to heart creating good tech policies with our future.
We have 3 speakers in the queue with their hands raised. No additional speakers will be taken. 8700, if you can please unmute.
Thank you, Joy Asinata. I support this movement of funds to CB8. Councilmember Moreno roared, I think it was just a week or 2 ago, and I listened. So I strongly support it. I really liked it in the staff report under equal opportunity contracting info. The way they spelled it out, the sketch and the unfoldment of the process, it just got me to a big yes real fast. So if you haven't read that section, I highly recommend it. So, and then my next comment is on the CRGs, the community recreation groups. Now this is not a judgment. I'm a little bit in the past with the recreation councils. That was very bumpy the way it ended up. But do we have enough transparency, monitoring, and oversight of the influence on funds and so forth, the movement, the influence, the recommendations from the CRG groups, and how that is all handled? Thank you, Kim Desmond, because I'm really excited about you being called to do work on this. It's really, really needed on that. And you're just going to come forward with your greatness, and you're going to make it happen. So I love the Race and Equity Department. I was against it sort of at first being part of the IDA, but it's beginning to be for me on this important item. And then real quick, you may have to cut me off, sweetie. No grants in 9 of no grants in 9
Your
of
time has
the
concluded. Francine Maxwell, if you can please unmute.
Francine Maxwell, Southeastern San Diego resident. Thank you so much for the presentation. In full support of the request. Wanting to make sure that people go and make sure that the studies that were done in earlier years are pulled off the shelf before we decide to do another one, because the things that were found remain the same. So before we spend more money on a disparity study, let's make sure that we go to the shelf and pull off the programming equity study within the parking rec system. Andy may need to expand his board. Another seat at the table where it comes from the community voice, not people that are paid, where they're going to check a box and pretty much be able to pull out what the community has been knowing for years. We knew that there were issues with the hiring, that our panels had given that the department knows it. We don't need to sit and continue to put committees together and put people that are going to sit there and talk about it and not change the narrative. So again, looking forward to more transparency and oversight within our park and rec system, making sure that when people are turned out, they are softly removed so that things can grow. Also remember that it's the council office that directs things that they want to as well. And people that are in the areas of concern, sometimes you remain the areas of concern because you need to look at what's going on behind the doors in the council office, because our park was stacked when we could have pushed harder and got a whole skate park across the street on some land that we own. All those people are gone. They attended the meeting, and the park system knew that they were gonna do it, and so did the council office, and that doesn't bode well.
That concludes your time, and our final speaker is Peggy Walker.
Thank you again. As a youth mentor, I support this with a focus on safety and oversight. It's important to provide greater availability of healthy recreational choices in a safe place for children, especially in underserved communities. This is important at a time when youth are bombarded with so many diverse and not always healthy ways to spend their time. When kids unclaim the overwhelming drugs, social media, and other sports and studies have shown that when kids live near dispensaries, for example, they are more likely to use marijuana and as a result have higher rates of psychoses. There's a greater prevalence of
Time. Councilmember Moran.
Thank you. I want to thank our Park and Rec staff and the administration for your work on this revision, and also to my colleagues for understanding my concerns on this item when it was heard last week at council. The Opportunity Fund is a special revenue fund created by the Park and Rec Department. The City of San Diego released their park master plan and the performance audit of equity in recreation programming. Both identified inequities related to park access and recreation programming across the city. The performance audit recommendations 6 states that the park allocation. In fiscal year 25, District 8 got 24%. In fiscal year 26, District 8 got 12%. Fiscal year 27, we're getting 26%. And this is only after this revision and only with additional funds. Over 4 years, District 8 has averaged roughly 18% of a fund explicitly designed to address underserved communities. To me, that's a continuation of the same neglect these funds were created for, and it's unacceptable. I also want to address the issue of unspent rec center funds. When this item was first brought forward, District 8 had $1.2 million in funds. And it was these exact funds that are obstructing my park and recs from being considered for the Opportunity Fund. Yet the money has not been spent. It was those unspent funds that disqualified our parks from being considered for Opportunity Fund dollars. I stated last time, and I still have it, I have an invoice for $34,000 for a scoreboard that Little League families have advocated for years. Montgomery Waller Park has $302,000 in identified needs, with funds that have not been spent. The San Diego American Memorial Park Little League plays on baseball fields that need laser leveling, clay for the bases, proper fencing to allow for landscape maintenance and additional shading. In this revision, Memorial Park will now receive some funds, but absolutely not enough to address the full scope of what the fields need. My residents deserve the same quality of parks and recreation programs that other communities across the city take for granted. The Opportunity Funds exist precisely to close the gap, and right now it's falling short of that promise for District 8. I disagree with the historical trajectory of prioritization that has been presented because District 8 deserves more. I do want to thank our Chief of Race and Equity, Kim Desmond, and I look forward to the committee members that are sitting on the committee that gets to decide how these funds are being spent. I brought up at the last meeting. When are you proposing to come back to this council with your findings?
For FY28, as looking at some of these factors, I think it deserves some critique to make sure we're getting it right. So we can come up with a timeline with Parks and Rec that suffices.
Okay, so we don't know yet. It could be a month, it could be 7 months.
Yes.
It's up to the administration.
Councilmember, I think that's fair. The timeline is somewhat indeterminate right now. However, we anticipate that opportunity fund committee would be in place in time for development of the FY28 budget. Here next year, but whoever succeeds you should have the benefit of having some folks from the DRAY team sitting on that committee when they see the FY28 numbers presented to you.
Wonderful. And so I would just like to read into the record the committee member titles. And these are all City of San Diego. Associate Manager Analyst, a District Manager, an Area Manager, a Senior Management Analyst, Supervising Rec Specialist, a Senior Park Ranger, and I think recently added a Philanthropic Public Partner into that. These are the folks that get to decide how much funding is being dispersed, and obviously the City Council puts the parameters as to what is, approves the parameters. So definitely something that needs to be looked at with a finer lens. Also, Councilmember Foster at the last meeting brought up the fact that he wanted to see the funding allocations for these park and recs during the budget process, which I very much welcome. So with that, I would like to make an amendment to staff's recommendation. I can find it here. So in section 4, to appropriate and expend scoreboard at $34,000. The remainder all across District 8. Excuse me. Sorry. Once again, to allocate to Montgomery Waller Little League for $4,000. Allocate evenly, sorry, can't even read my own notes. Allocate evenly across all 8 city rec centers in Council District 8 at the amount of $8,250 each, and that will be my modification to the motion. And I apologize. I do want to thank my colleague, Councilmember Shawnee Rivera, for proposing the $100,000 from the Surf Cup Sports LLC percentage ground lease payment. Thank you for that recommendation. I will note that District 4 and District 9 are receiving $250,000 of opportunity funds, which they 1,000% deserve. District 8 is only getting $150,000 this year, and that's because of the $100,000. If not, we would only be getting $54,000. It's my district, my community, very underserved community, and I will always fight to.
Thank you so much, Council President. This $34,000 for the scoreboard, is that part of the $12,500 each for the 8? Or is that an additional funding from somewhere else?
But the $34,000 is separate than the $12,500 that we originally recommended for each of the rec centers in Council District 8.
That is incorrect. Councilmember Campbell, our colleague Shawnee Rivera discovered that we could potentially put $100,000 of Surf Cup funding. So out of those $100,000, we take 34 and we put it towards the scoreboard at Montgomery Waller. And the remainder, which is roughly
towards the scoreboard, then divide the remainder across the 8 sites. We got you. No problem. No problem. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thanks, you guys. I understand completely. I'm happy to second the motion.
To succeed, and that we have a system in place that made it more and more difficult for them to ever catch up. That is reminiscent of a smart idea, and now it's about making sure that the idea rec centers and the goals of this specific program to work as intended. But all that doesn't mean that the opportunity fund itself isn't important. I think it's important for members of the public to recognize. I also do want to just note that Councilmember Foster is on official business right now. District 4 wasn't left out of the conversation as this opportunity fund, as the decisions were being made, and that they didn't get any less than what they were deserving of, just because we heard some comments, and I want to make sure that was on the record as well. The last thing I think the $100,000 that we were able to deploy here to address some of Councilmember Moreno's concerns are the direct result of this council demanding more and demanding better from those who have the ability to pay more and treat the city better. It's an example of us leaning into that and then deploying that additional revenue in a way that serves a part of the city that's been the most left behind over the years. And in this case, it's just $100,000, so not transformational from a city budget perspective, but it also demonstrates that every single dollar that we get in that sort of way matters. The $34,000 that will be deployed to the scoreboard is going to make, I would imagine, a very big difference. And we can't lose sight of that. That's just my way of saying that when we are entering into negotiations with any party with the city, we need to squeeze as much out as possible, because on the other end of that equation are families who will benefit from that. And in this case, it's $100,000 that will feed into the Opportunity Fund, and those $100,000 are being deployed to benefit the residents of District 8. There are similar positive outcomes that can be derived from us simply demanding more when we are the entities that are making a lot of money from their from the agreements that they have from the city. So
I'll just pivot it after the work to be done as you gain this input. I want to focus on something that I think Councilmember Foster pointed out about having this information not as a separate item after the budget is already approved, but part and parcel of the budget. Because today we have very little room. The Opportunity Fund is X dollars, and the question is, how are you going to divvy up those X dollars? If Councilmember Olivera had secured that $100,000, it would have been a much different, very painful conversation today. So having that information about, even if it's only draft, in terms of the rec center fund conversations, because a few dollars, every dollar is painful that we don't give to Park and Rec funds for. It made a heck of a lot of difference, but we didn't know. We didn't have those tools available to us. So one more thing to add to your list of how we do FY28 differently, and maybe at least give us the opportunity, or council the opportunity, to have more flexibility and weigh the pros and cons, the benefits and the costs of any of those decisions going forward. So thank you for your good work. Thank you for that. And again, I'll throw in two rec centers, rec councils in District 1 threw in money towards that Opportunity Fund beyond the Red Bureau process. And that we created the Opportunity Fund out of scratch. And maybe this is a good chance to kind of revisit the thinking that went into the Opportunity Funds. Now that we've got a few years under our belts. So anyway, thank you, Park and Rec. Thank you, Councilmember Moreno, and everybody who weighed in last time and weighed in this afternoon. And so that we do have the motion. It is now up on the screen. I think you heard it said out loud a couple of times. So the key being directing $34,000 directly to the Montgomery Waller Recreation Center for the Little League scoreboard and spreading the remainder of that 100,000 evenly across all 8 recreation centers in Council District 8, the $8,250. Not see anybody else in the lights? Clerk, please call the roll.
That's right, everybody.
That passes unanimously, 7-0, with Councilmember Foster and Councilmember Von Wilford absent. Thank you, Council President.
All right, thank you, Clerk. So with that, for the next 2 items, we're going to update the order. We will first hear the item to establish the Affordable Housing Preservation Fund. This is item HA1. Item S402 from the City Planning Department as the City Council. Upon conclusion of those 2 items, we will return as Housing Authority to continue with today's business. So with that, we will now adjourn as the City Council and convene as a special Housing Authority meeting. Clerk, please introduce Housing Authority item HA1.
Thank you, Council President. Item HA1 is to establish an affordable housing preservation fund and amend the San Diego Housing Commission fiscal year 2026 budget to accept City of San Diego neighborhood enhancement fee funds for affordable housing preservation. If you'd like to speak on this item, please be sure to submit a speaker.
Good afternoon, Colin Miller, Senior Vice President of Real Estate for the San Diego Housing Commission to establish an affordable housing preservation fund and amend the Housing Commission's fiscal year 2026 budget to accept $5,913,554 in City of San Diego neighborhood enhancement fee funds that will be transferred from the City of San Diego to the Housing Commission to deposit into the Housing Commission's Affordable Housing Preservation Fund. These are crucial next steps to help preserve the affordability and rental homes citywide. They also support the City Council approved affordable housing preservation strategy. The Housing Commission's study, Preserving Affordable Housing in the City of San Diego, released May 2020, estimated that more than 13,000 units can become unaffordable by 2040. 4,200 deed-restricted units may lose protections, and up to 9,250 naturally affordable homes will become unaffordable due to market pressures. Without 2025 report about the potential for the creation of an affordable housing preservation fund, along with the options for its implementation. The committee asked us to return with recommendations and funding models going forward. On September 4th, 2025, staff returned to LUMH with a range of preservation strategies to create and implement an affordable housing preservation fund. The committee unanimously approved recommending that the City Council take the staff recommended actions to establish an affordable housing preservation fund. The LUMH committee requested that staff take the actions shown on this slide. Staff have researched various funding models available to create and preserve affordable housing and naturally occurring housing in San Diego. We have spoken with industry professionals and consulted with other localities to determine the best options for the City of San Diego. We returned to the City Council to request the approvals needed to establish the fund and transfer the neighborhood enhancement fee funds to the Housing Commission. In its approval of the City of San Diego's fiscal year 2026 budget, the City Council allocated $5 million from the Neighborhood Enhancement Fee Fund to the Affordable Housing Preservation Fund. Since launched as additional new developments paid into the fund, Housing Commission staff have worked with the City of San Diego staff to bring a companion item to the City Council to approve a transfer of funds from the fiscal year 2026 sources and uses of funds proposed for approval were not included in the Housing Commission's Housing Authority approved fiscal year 2026 project. The preservation fund at a later date. As the fund grows and additional types of investments are sought, report is shown on the slide. Thank you for your time. Francis Barraza and I are able to answer any questions, and that concludes our presentation.
All right, thank you for the work. Thank you for the presentation. Clerk, please proceed with public comment.
Thank you, Council President. If I can have and then Anthony Ross. You can please come forward to the yellow reserved seats at the front, Anthony. That would be greatly appreciated, as well as Roger. You will have 2 minutes. Please proceed.
I put in a slip for this and a slip for the next one that are like almost the same. Would it
are being taken separately, so then your comments will be separate. But thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to call your attention to how significant this is in terms of the unintended consequences of programs the City Council has approved and refused to modify over years of concern. The bonus ADU program specifically removed from our housing stock affordable starter housing, be that 750,000 or more. These homes are considered very affordable, and they're in neighborhoods where housing is affordable. This policy allowed developers to turn these homes into rental units and build multiple units in the backyards. Were these bonus ADU units affordable? No, they were not. For every market rate unit the developer got, they were allowed or required to build a quote-unquote affordable unit. Those affordable units include moderate rate housing that rents to people who make more than 110% of the average median income. For 5 years, we urged this council to revisit these rules and require developers to build true low-income housing, and this council did not do that. The other issue here is what Complete Communities has done to existing apartment buildings that, because they're older, are more affordable. Those units, examples in UTC and Golden Hill, were demolished to make room for developments that charge one-bedroom unit with a quote-unquote affordable units costing more than 25 times when they're pointed out to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Allegedly Audra.
Need to squeeze out as much as possible. It's so interesting because you guys sit here items like this, like you're really going to preserve something that doesn't exist. So you guys sit here and act like we're providing affordable housing. Is it? I mean, is it really affordable even if you need some kind of voucher? Does that mean it's still affordable? I mean, wouldn't that mean it's not? And that you need more money to go in there? I mean, it's like the way you guys pull wool over people's eyes to make it seem like what you're doing is beneficial to them is so sad, because it's like this $5 million, I mean, really, what's that going to do? You're talking about acquiring and preserving. Like, I mean, you guys sit up there with a straight face. It's so sad. Because people are suffering. You sit up on your dais, and you guys act like you know what that's like to try and figure out how you're going to pay your rent and what's actually affordable. Like, when you have people that are making hundreds of thousands of dollars and talking about affordability, until you guys get paid $20 an hour and you're trying to make ends meet, I don't think that you have a right to talk about that. Because you don't have that kind of lived experience where you would understand what it's like to stretch a dollar. Instead, you guys come after the people time and time. No, Sean? Do you know what that's like? Have you been homeless? You have. For how long? Right, and look at you now, right? Do you care about the people you walk over at night? You don't. So, I mean, you want to sit here and act like you've been homeless? I've been homeless too. But I actually give a shit about the people. I don't just walk over them and like, oh my gosh, you're such an eyesore and let's move you down the road. That's what's so sad. Yes, that's what you guys do. You don't go in and personally like encounter these people. But yet you sit up here and decide what they can and what they can't afford, and that is so egregious.
Anthony Rouse, please come forward.
Well, good afternoon, Council. I thought that this, I mean, it appeared to be cut and dry to me, but after hearing some of the testimonies, some of the members of the public, I'm not exactly sure, and I think that with regard to what one of the gentlemen said earlier with regard to the unintended consequences, I think that we should look into that. I think that some of the unintended consequences that could happen as a result of this proposal. Thank you.
Starting the 5 minute timer going to those participating remotely. Starting with Francine Maxwell, if you can please unmute.
Francine Maxwell is our Southeastern San Diego. NEF is required, paragraph 2 in R-2021-182, to be used solely to fund recreation amenities, active transportation, and transit infrastructure projects. So 100%, no amenities were or ever will be constructed with NEF and Lucy. The NEF money was not spent in any amenity in communities of concern or any infrastructure. 100% NEF money is now being proposed to be transferred into preserving the concentration of poverty in communities of concern in reference to the concentration of poverty. So again, we're going to have to revisit this because it seems like people have forgotten about the win that my neighbors received. Building projects without amenities, then using the money meant to improve the lives of most vulnerable, but instead without amenities. I think that there's something wrong unless I have just completely misread this. So I look forward to the education that I may receive from the diocese today. And again, let's not forget about 100% is now being transferred, preserving the concentration of poverty, because District 4 is an area of concern and their neighbors get together and they win lawsuits. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Next is 8700, if you can please unmute.
I'm Joyce Anata. Oh gosh, I thought I was prepared for this and I mixed up the items, but that's not what I need to whine about or even cry. Thank you, Paul Kruger. Thank you, allegedly Audra. Thank you, Francine Maxwell. They all are telling us things we need to listen to. Those statistics about what's going to happen to, these covenants. I love the word preservation. You all know that. And, I really was all for this fund, but are we missing some of you so we can do better? Thank you for listening. Love to all.
Next is John, if you can please unmute.
The direction this is taken, it's the same direction that I was going to go, which is a facility that it represents over closed down. If this funding is for the purpose of meeting the needs of underserved communities, I suggest we start there, and then we should go over to the O lot and talk about what's going on there. Because when we envisioned that, we did not envision it at the density that it currently is operating at. We did not envision it without any ground cover to relieve you of dust and or mud when it rains. We did not agree to a place that has no shade and no community gathering places to relax. It is dismal and dense beyond what we ever imagined with 200 to 300 tents in one location. We have 0 adult shelters that are built for purpose, or for that matter, that are in place for anyone who is a single adult on our streets right now. We've got it for specialty groups, we've got it for families, we've got it for people with disabilities, people, gay, lesbian. But if you're a single adult, you get to live in a tent, whether it's a group tent on asphalt or a tent at the O lot. So I think we need to rethink about priorities here, because honestly, we're kind of making Sunbridge Ranch split.
Hi, thank you. A commenter has a lot of words and ideas on the concept of the future of the Neil Good Day Center, and he is just the best, strongest voice to really talk about any possible future for the Day Center. I hope you and realize what we're losing in giving that up. Efficiency in giving it up. Practicalities why we need to keep it and work on concepts like it. If it is abandoned, where else are we going to go? Paul Kruger also offered really interesting comments that was seconded by Anthony. Thank you very much. I would like to further that concept and and the idea that you're hearing good public voices on this matter, and that helps. And I guess to thank our councilpersons, I've been learning important lessons from Councilperson LaCava that I understand you guys do care about affordable housing at this time. I'm better understanding that, what you can be doing towards that subject. From that, how do we again talk about the future of places like Neil Good Day Center and services for people who really need it? And good luck how this funding can be used to for truly affordable ends, and that you guys have conversations.
Stakeholder, and I don't know that we are considered a stakeholder, some of us, the voices that we have. I think that moving forward, we have to really be intentional and conscious of what we choose and how we choose to build buildings or build anything that we're doing. I was offered a apartment at Quattro for City Heights. I drove by there. Whoever designed that building, it looks like a jail cell. The side window would be the freeway of the 15. I understand that when we have to build affordable housing in areas, where there's transits and such things, but I don't know if anybody's looked at that building or some of the other buildings that are built. It really stands out as you're in affordable housing. So if we're creating these, I don't know, it almost puts a tag on you again. And I don't know whose intentions are or what they are when they're building these places that are supposed to include or be inclusive to our community. And I think that approach how we move forward in this new day and age. Thank you.
Thank you. That does conclude public comment on this item.
All right, thank you, City Clerk. With that, we'll turn over to council members, questions, comments, entertain a motion. We'll start with the chair.
My leadership and advocacy as the former chair of the Land Use and Housing Committee, the Land Use and Housing Committee in the fall, and where we are doing is taking the next step in actually putting together as we acknowledged at the time, the city, whether through the Housing Commission or through partners within, and have the opportunity to present evidence. There's been over 13,000 units that have been identified with covenants that would be expiring, other nationally affordable housing, occurring affordable housing. And for much time, the city is focused heavily, primarily on producing new housing units. But at the same time, we recognize that just producing new units doesn't necessarily ensure that the existing units with expirations of their covenants would actually be protected. And that's why we're here today. Working with the Housing Commission and the Planning Department, the Neighborhood Enhancement Fee was established specifically with housing preservation as one of its primary areas of emphasis. And today we're looking not just at allocating the $5.9 million to start this fund, but recognizing that the funds that were collected and that now have the opportunity to actually be utilized for the purpose they were intended, which is to provide for additional affordable housing opportunities, specifically by protecting the ones that already exist. I do want to ask with Colin and Francis, something that has been identified is that the staff report and the materials here talk about the $5.9 million as a part of FY26. We're of course headed into the FY27 budget as well. And so we've been talking about a higher number of what's anticipated to ultimately go to this fund. Can you share about that?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So yes, this is strictly for fiscal year 2026 with the $5.9 million. In fiscal year 27, there's an additional that budget was already approved by City Council. That's why we did not mention it in this report.
Thank you. And let me just note that as much as we talked about the ordinance being the first step and the establishment of this fund being another step, there's a lot of work to do still. $8.5 million is not a lot at the end of the day in terms of the number of housing units that can be impacted. You look at some of the developments that or some of the properties in the past where On the naturally occurring affordable side, we've seen thousands of units ship hands to become market rate, and we've lost that affordability to those who had the ability to act upon that. What establishing this fund allows the city to do is to also workforce partners within the region to think about how we can work collectively to have funding available so that, again, where this really focuses, just as a starting point, are the thousands of units that we have identified that have 55-year covenants for affordable housing that are expiring.
Recommendation, we'll go next to Council Member Moreno.
And while we must continue building more, construction alone is not keeping up with the need. This is homes in San Diego. In November 2024, the Land Use and Housing Committee unanimously recommended that the City Council adopt the previous ordinance, which provides a right of first offer and right of first refusal to qualified entities and for-profit organizations. And I do want to take this opportunity to thank the San Diego Housing Commission for how many meetings did you guys have during that? I know we're not talking about this, but it's good to put on record how many meetings you had, right? Or luxury housing. Now, when we're taking the next critical step, the neighbors did to preserve resources, also known as money, needed to act when these opportunities arise. So the first ordinance gave us the right to do it. Now this is providing us the money to do it. So having an fund in place is an essential tool to ensure that we continue preserving existing affordable homes in San Diego. Do we need more parks? Yes. Do we need to make our parks and keep them up to speed? Absolutely yes. But we absolutely need these funds. And I want to take this opportunity to thank Council Pro Tem Lee and his staff for your continuous work on this very important effort. Could have just left it sitting on the shelf and we would have never had money to actually put our money where our mouth is. And I also want to take an opportunity, and I want to thank you for that and second the motion. Thank you.
That's it. Which is good. This is good. If we care about people being able to live, period. So I think period. So I think some of the confusion and people who want to flip homes regardless of what the impact is on community, give San Diego an actual chance to compete, and then I'm glad to see actions to ensure that we can do this. So to talk about this a little bit earlier alongside my colleagues, Councilmember Moreno and Council President, affordable housing exists, and just to make sure that that's a technical term so we can define what we're actually talking about there. Deed restricted affordable housing, and the cycle continues. So some of the folks who've spoken kind of in opposition to this are the same people who talk about caring about
big step forward. Thank you to the Housing Commission, the Planning Department for all the work that's got quite a bit of that in others, or because an apartment that simply has a low rent because of the market goes away or is replaced by something more expensive. Otherwise, we're just spinning our wheels. And we're not actually adding to the overall supply of affordable housing that we so desperately need. That is why this fund is such a big deal. The city dedicating funding specifically for preserving affordable housing is not something that very many cities are doing. This fund has been discussed to be used to acquire naturally occurring affordable housing before a private investor snaps it up, could be used to preserve deed restricted affordable housing, and with the city committing neighborhood enhancement fund dollars year over year, this is a sustained investment in keeping San Diego affordable. It's not more people get pushed out of their home. It'll protect the affordable rents that exist right now and keep them affordable going forward. Every unit that we preserve is a family that doesn't have to move, a family that can stay in the neighborhood, a senior on fixed income who gets to stay in the neighborhood that they have called home for decades, a worker who can still afford to live close to where they work. We lose thousands of affordable units in this city every year. Not because they're necessarily torn down, but because they're sold and the rents are raised. This fund is how we start to fight back against that. So San Diego is doing something genuinely innovative here. I am proud to support it, and I will join my colleagues in thanking all of you who have been involved in this incredibly important work. Thank you, Council President.
All right, thank you, Council Member Whitburn, and we'll go next to Council Member Campbell.
Thank you so much for all the comments from all my colleagues. They're absolutely correct. I remember, gosh, back just before I ran for council, we lost a large affordable housing complex because the 55 years had run out. And it was really difficult to get them to agree with the fact that please help us figure out a way to help these folks who are now elderly and can't move, and they've been in this thing 55 years. So at any rate, that's the history that led to ideas like this. This is an excellent idea, and I'm definitely in favor, and I want to thank all my colleagues for this, as well as the Housing Commission again for your brilliance in trying to help us with our housing situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Campbell. Not seeing anybody else on the lights, I'll add my thank you to Councilmember Moreno, Council President Pro Tem Lee, the Housing Commission, city staff that has done very good work here going forward. And the one thing I want to really emphasize is that nobody is standing up and cheering and saying mission accomplished. This is a huge step towards solving a huge problem. And we can't build fast enough, and as my colleagues have said, this is an opportunity to preserve what we have. And there is nothing more efficient, more green, more climate action plan friendly than simply preserving the development and buildings that we have already. So this is a huge step. I appreciate the emphasis in getting this place locked into place, and then begin to think about what do we do next. Can we leverage this and get some other funding, other grants, philanthropy, as Council President Pro Tem Lee talked about. So we look forward to, once you start getting into the weeds and where to go. And this is a good day. That is a step in the right direction. So I'll be supporting as well. So we have a motion by Council President Pro Tem Lee and a second by Councilmember Moreno. Clerk, please call the roll.
I'll start the voice, so please cast your vote. That passes unanimously 6-0 with council.
Thank you, staff, for the good work. We will now adjourn and have the Housing Authority and reconvene with the City Council. Clerk, please introduce item S402.
Item S402 is the agreement SDHC. These to SDHC to support.
All right, staff is just settling in, and you're ready. How much time do you need?
We should only need 5 minutes.
All right, if you're ready.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Melissa Garcia, and I'm a senior planner with the City Planning Department. Today I'm joined by Marlon Tingalinen, Program Manager with the City Planning Department. We are here to present the agreement between the City of San Diego and the San Diego Housing Commission for the transfer of Neighborhood Enhancement Fund fees to the San Diego Housing Commission to support the Affordable Housing Preservation Fund. The item proposes the following actions. Authorize the mayor or designee to enter an agreement between the City of San Diego and the San Diego Housing Commission to transfer City Neighborhood Enhancement Fund fees to support the Affordable Housing Preservation Fund, and authorize the Chief Financial Officer or designee to appropriate and expend an amount not to exceed $8.5 million from the city's Neighborhood Enhancement Fund to the San Diego Housing Commission for the purpose of supporting the Affordable Housing Preservation Fund. The Neighborhood Enhancement Fund consists of fees collected from developers participating in the Complete Communities Housing Solutions Program, which was adopted in 2020 and is a program that incentivizes housing production near transit while funding neighborhood amenities. To be eligible to receive benefits under the Complete Communities Housing Solutions regulations, applicants must either construct on-site public or to be used to fund recreation amenities, active transportation, and transit infrastructure projects, and the remaining 50% of the NEF is to be used for affordable housing preservation. This action proposes to transfer neighborhood enhancement fees to the San Diego Housing Commission's Affordable Housing Preservation Fund, which is being established under a separate action by the Housing Authority. The Affordable Housing Preservation Fund will acquire and preserve deed-restricted, and naturally occurring affordable housing for households earning between 30% and 150% of area median income. The fund will also preserve at-risk will also prevent displacement and leverage public and private investment. Staff recommendation is to authorize the mayor or designee to enter into an agreement between the City of San Diego and the San Diego Housing Commission to transfer city neighborhood enhancement fund fees to support the Affordable Housing Preservation Fund, and authorize the chief financial officer or designee to appropriate and expend an amount not to exceed $8.5 million from the city's Neighborhood Enhancement Fund to the San Diego Housing Commission for the purpose of supporting the Affordable Housing Preservation Fund.
As you yourselves have pointed out, the loss of quote-unquote naturally occurring affordable housing could be and could have been prevented. I'm not here to relitigate anything. I'm here to stress to you and ask you to please, moving forward, listen to those who bring a wealth of knowledge and research